Oh, yeah, yeah. Welcome back in the post wild card pre-division round odd shopper betting show. We appreciate you hanging with us. We appreciate you hitting that thumbs up button first and foremost, subscribing to the channel. We're near 3K. We're growing and building the community, expanding by the day. And of course, here, this is your show as much as it is myself, Ben Rasa, Mike Awesemo producing. So tell us, lead us, guide us what to do either tonight in the NBA through this weekend in the NFL to lock it up, all right, across the board. So what's happening, my friend? We had a nice, juicy, busy week here as we hit Thursday into the NFL, and I know you're excited as the first week of the NFL didn't really provide a ton of excitement per se, but we have value across the board. We'll bounce around, Ben Rasa, game, give a play on the side or total, player prop like we did last week. So definitely a lot of content today.
No doubt about it. Yeah, we did this last week. We're going to go game by game. We're going to give our pick. You can agree or disagree. In chat, you can do the same. And then we're going to hit the player prop market as well. A lot there. It's been a good week. Honestly, we ended last week. The Rams got it done. I was happy to see that. Then we've been doing a little college basketball, a little hockey, a little soccer, a little Australian Open. It's been a mixed bag, but now we get back to the NFL streets where I'm obviously most excited. And I love it. We get the Titans, we get the Packers, the two number one seeds who have been resting are now in play. It's going to be cold in Green Bay, but the first game on the docket is the Bengals and the Titans, which is a very fascinating one in itself.
So why don't you start things off, my friend? It's your world here. Right, lead us on anything you like from a side total, team total, anything non-player prop. Let's start there with you.
Here we go. Tennessee, 3.5-point favorites. Total is 47.5 in the game. I'm going to get the card started with the Titans. You can find this around -105. Okay. So I save a little juice. And I think this is just a situation. I'm probably guilty of it as well. Tennessee doesn't feel like the number one seed. They don't feel like the best team, but they've earned that spot. They are very good at home. They only lost twice. They obviously got a rest week. Derrick Henry is coming back. A.J. Brown is healthy. Tannehill is reliable. The defense is solid. And on the other side, Eitan, Cincinnati, credit to them. They won a playoff game. But I just don't think winning at home against the Raiders is the same against hitting the road here with a team that's been prepping for you, that's been resting. I think the Titans are in a different class. I think we see that. Burrow, I actually didn't know this. We discovered this on the VOD. He's played, of his last 7 games, 6 have been home games. He only hit the road once in about 2 months. And I just kind of worry about Cincinnati as a whole going into this environment. Not sure they're ready for it this year. They're explosive, but give me the Titans. Where do you go with your first pick here?
Well, first off, let me say I wholeheartedly agree with your play. And it correlates nicely with me going under this 47 right now. I think the best and easiest means for the Titans to win, establish a lead at home, which they've been able to do, limit the opposing offense, especially a new to the playoffs offense like this Bengals team, as we've talked about, just Burrow, Chase, Boyd, Higgins, all being fresh in the postseason and relying on what got you there. And I know necessarily like this year is not the same as years prior, but they're not just going to peddle Derrick Henry out there for 2 or 3 touches and then put him back under some coat on the bench there. Henry's going to pound the hell out of this Bengals defense. So all of that helps you keep Burrow off the field on top of limiting him when he's out there. I think it's just too much, simply too much. Mike Vrabel's got a plan. I trust, and you mentioned this team deserves it. Totals usually find a way to go under. I believe it was 7-2 this year, the under in Nashville. So yeah, under 47 for me to start.
I'm with you. I'd love to disagree, and I'm sure we're going to have some, but it's not going to be here.
No. We'll probably have some coming up right now with my player prop.
Well, that's very possible too. But Tennessee, last thing I want to say here, average time of possession for the year, Tennessee, 32 minutes and 39 seconds. That's second in the entire league.
Amazing.
They're a ball control team. That's what they want to do. That is how they win the game. That is how the game potentially goes under as well. Tennessee dominates time of possession. That is a good thing for your under. Now, where are you going in the player prop world? Are you going to anything on the Tennessee side, or you go to Chase and those guys thinking they're playing catch up?
Nope, I'm correlating everything as much as humanly possible. I learned my lesson last week trying to sneak in that Damian Harris anytime TD with that under, which bursted anyway. So I was screwed all around. But Derek Henry, now look, if you're going same game parlay, for example, if you want to take what Ben and I have given you and play the under and play the Titans laying the 3.5, and then add this as a single lone anytime, then I strongly suggest doing that. If you're playing Derek Henry just to score, I think, and especially you've seen this 3 times this year, 3 separate times this year, he's rushed for 3 touchdowns. If you are going to take Derek Henry to score as an ISO bet, my suggestion would be to play it up and get the 320 back for a 2+ TD day for Derek Henry. That's my player prop to start things off.
Okay. I mean, listen, it's Derek Henry. I just don't know exactly how much we're going to see of him. It has been a long layoff. Maybe he will just be back and better than ever. I really don't know about that. I'm interested to see kind of where the market takes that.
Yeah.
For me, I'm going to actually look to Ryan Tannehill, and he is just a talented game manager. And I don't mean that as an insult by any stretch. I just mean that Tennessee's at the height of their powers when they're not pressing the ball, when they don't need to, when they take timely shots. All of this leads to Ryan Tannehill under 21.5 completions. I go to Odd Chopper. They've got him at 19.5 projected. And I think I agree more with that. It's more of a volume thing. He's coming in around 20, give or take, in the majority of games. But when they're really in control, I don't see him throwing nearly as much. I think it's very possible that he only has like high 20s in attempts. So you're going to ask him to have a very high completion percentage in this game if he's going to go over that. Again, Tennessee's running game, Tennessee's time of possession, it doesn't lead itself for good overs in that department. So I'm gonna stick with the theme as well. Give me the under on Tannehill's completions.
All right. I think we've created a nice little picture here and a reminder, right? As we continue to give you play individual stuff, you can take what you want. You can build the same game parlay with all 4. You can build the same game parlay with 2 of 3. You could take 3 here and move it with other stuff. So tons of flexibility, and whatever you have as well. If you like something that maybe we missed in a game, there's your opportunity in the chat. After you hit that thumbs up button, you subscribe. Make sure you give us a lock it up or simply a suggestion in one of these games. All right, let's move to the second game. We'll flip it here. I'll start with the total. And for me, this is an overplay. A lot of it has to do with not having enough faith in the Packers defense. San Fran can score. They're a sneaky score. Debo has definitely become a threat all around. Hard for me to think that with the Packers struggling on defense, that George Kittle is going to be held under wraps for 2 straight weeks. I know there's concern about the quarterback situation. I don't care, honestly, if it's Lance or Garoppolo back there. This offense has the ability to move the ball down the field and score, as does Green Bay. And I think the biggest thing is, can the Packers limit the Niners to under 20 points? The answer to me is no. So I think both offenses here are going to have an opportunity to move the ball up and down. That doesn't mean it's going to be a throw fest, Ben, but I like both offenses to maximize or at least capitalize on drives and score more often than not. Couple of 7s as opposed to 3s, and that gets me over 47.
I'm more neutral on this. I'm not going to go as far as disagreeing. Not a strong take. And of the 4 games, this is last for me. I think this is a very tough game. We get Saturday night in Green Bay. It's not going to be historically cold. It looks like it's going to be like 5, which is what it is. The problem I have, and I guess it's a question for you too, San Francisco seemingly just matches up really good with Green Bay every time they get in this situation. They're a hard-nosed, run-first team. They've got Debo. They've got Kittle, he's been under wraps, but it's been intentional. I bet the over on his prop, and I watched the entire Dallas game. It wasn't that Kittle wasn't doing anything. It was they were using him to block because they had advantages elsewhere. So if they want to get Kittle involved, they absolutely will. I just fear a little bit for Green Bay in terms of the stylistic matchup here. 2 years ago, and I know it was different, it was in San Francisco, Mostert and San Francisco blew them off the field in that game. It wasn't even remotely competitive. I'm going to take the 5.5 here. I think this is a close game. I think Green Bay is the better team, but I don't think it's this much. The largest spread of the 4 games to me is a little much considering San Francisco, the way they're built. If they get these guys back on defense too, at the end of the Dallas game, a couple guys were hurt Hopefully those guys are good, but I think this is a close game. Do you have a feel on the spread?
I was going to lean more towards the Packers. Look,
Okay.
this is not any type of true barometer here, but as somebody like yourself who watched every single second of that game with the George Kittle prop fully invested,
Yeah, that was not
I'll
good.
I'll ask you, and I'm leading. I concede that too. But if they played that game 5 times in a row, do you think that that's the same or similar result, or do you think the Cowboys are 4-1?
I don't know about 4-1.
Felt
I
like
think,
that. Felt like the Cowboys were. My
yeah.
point being is that it felt like that was more of a Cowboys implosion. And look, maybe that's just who Dallas is. That's
Oh, there's
fine with me too.
definitely on the flip side. I think there is something though that San Francisco, they win those games. They
Yeah,
get into
fair
these
enough.
situations and they find a way, even against the Rams, they're down 17-0. They battle back, they win in overtime. They kind of blew the lead there. Now, if Jimmy G turns it over like he did, that's just inexcusable because the way they play, just don't turn it over and you're going to be really tough to beat with the rushing attack. Eli Mitchell, Debo, you've got Kittle. Honestly, I've been super impressed with Ayuk and Jennings, peripheral guys, but they step up. This is a difficult matchup for Green Bay. I'm sure it's not the team that they wanted to say.
No, I agree, and that's going to be the thing here is the Packers deep, and that's why I lean over is that I think if it's a close game, this is more of a
Back
higher
and forth.
scoring game. Yeah, exactly, because I think sneakily, and again, because on the surface people may not give them enough credit, but they can hang. All right, so was that still just on the over, or did we get your play as well?
No, so my play again, it's the weakest of the 4 games.
Oh no, you took the points.
I'm gonna
Took the
take the
points. I
points.
apologize.
Yep.
Right. That's my brain being fried. So go ahead. You start now with player props.
So yeah, now we go to the player prop market. And again, I think this is all about styles. What are we going to see? Who's going to be contributing? And my first thought is that Aaron Jones and AJ Dillon is one of the spots that we can really look at. And it's particularly with AJ Dillon. I'm going to go.
This will be fun.
Over 45.5 rushing yards for Dillon. I know it's not the most widely bet prop or anything like that, but this is a guy, he's starting to garner serious work in this backfield, basically north of 10 carries in the predominant amount of games here. He's got a healthy yards per carry. I think he's the type of back that they may lean on even more. They'll use Aaron Jones, obviously more in passing downs, and Aaron Jones will contribute. But to me, they can coexist. If you're going to give me 12, 14, 16 carries for AJ Dillon, I'm going to go over this number. It's 45.5. We haven't projected for 58. I feel good about it. I think Dillon has a big role in this game.
It's amazing because I thought you were going leading up and building to playing Aaron Jones prop because that's what I have.
I was close.
Yeah, I know. And I think honestly, the operative word here that you laid out was coexist. Especially, and again, it factors in an over. There's going to be some movement down the field. And look, Aaron Jones has gone over 52.5 is what I got in at over. Aaron Jones has gone over this number in 3 straight games. And while there's been volatility in carries, I think that proves just how wide of a net you can cast with Jones going over this. He gets 8 or 9 carries. There's a huge big play potential built in where he can get over this number, as we saw most recently at the end of the season. If he gets volume carries, especially maybe the Packers are up or they're moving the ball consistently on the ground, you can coexist with Dillon and still get 12 to 13 carries for Jones and go over this number. I saw it at 55.5. It's dipped a little bit at 52.5. We haven't projected well over that on Odd Shoppers. So I think both here have a strong potential to hit.
Yeah, again, I wouldn't be stunned to see the Packers employ a run heavy attack. And obviously they're going to have Adams on the outside. Rodgers will do his thing, but if it's freezing, these backs are very talented. They can coexist. And I do think if they win the game, volume won't be an issue for either of them. So the other thing, and I don't do this a ton, but unless you really think San Francisco can slow it, if you bet both of them over, it feels so much more likely that you go now 1-1 is probably the predominant outcome and you lose the juice, but it feels so much more likely that you go 2-0 rather than 0-2. It would be really surprising for neither of them to push over the prop. So if you bet both, basically you're asking the backfield to get, $110 plus yards, and you obviously want them divvied up properly. I think that's a worthwhile thing to look at because worst case scenario, you're going to probably split. You lose a minor, buy-in or two. I don't know why neither of them, unless San Francisco truly stones them up front. I don't think that happens though.
I agree. I think you can definitely have some fun with that. You can play them individually. You can put them in a same game parlay. You can run an alternate, especially if you wanted to dip Aaron Jones down to like 40 plus and keep Dillard at 40 plus. So there's so many different ways you can do this. And I'm totally in agreement with you. And it makes a lot of sense when you look at this where the likelihood of both failing is slim. Now, again, that's going to still burst your same game parlay, but that's
Sure.
not the main bet. The main bet would be to stake them individually and take the overs. It's a good play. All right.
Yeah.
Let's Rams Bucks. You start.
Here we go.
This is the one you've been waiting for.
Definitely, because I'm almost. I'll give people a little spoiler alert. I'm fairly certain we disagree here.
Yes, that's fine though.
Oh no, it's better. It makes it more fun.
Here's the thing though. I don't think we disagree with the means. We just disagree with the end, right?
I definitely agree with that. I think we both think that this game is going to be back and forth passing. Both of these teams, we have tools here at Awesemo that show neutral game script in terms of percentage of pass and throws, and these are two of the most predominant pass heavy teams in neutral game scripts. They throw and they throw often. I like the Rams in the game though. I'm going to take the points. It's just a situation. And I said this against Arizona. I feel like the Rams for a long time now have been, and rightfully so, they have been budgeted in for a massive turnover in every game. And we've seen the effect when Stafford plays clean, they are undefeated on the year. Nobody has beat them. They played Tampa early in the year. They beat them. Stafford threw no interceptions in that game. If he can keep it clean, and they can lean on Odell. Cam Akers is Wolverine, obviously, because he just no ease him back in. Guy is unstoppable. So I trust the Rams, obviously, a little more than I think I did even against Arizona, having seen Stafford play that clean game. The pass rush, I think, can get to Brady. We'll see the health of Tampa's offensive line. It is scary because obviously the Bucs are the Bucs. But I'm going to take the points. Now talk to me about why Tommy Boy gets it done.
I actually dropped this to -1.5 at -130. And I feel like this is one of these crazy games where the Bucs win, but they find a way to not cover that closing gate. A last minute field goal, like something happens. We see missed extra points. We see 2-point conversions. A lot of it. It's also surrounding Tom Brady, who always has, it seems like once a year, some sort of weird, mysterious, or allegedly illegal circumstance surrounding him, right? So this would be a perfect game, I think, where everybody like me has the most confidence in the world that this offense can survive. Like the Bucs offense can survive no matter who's out there. There's no reason, even with Jalen Ramsey out there, to think that Brady won't pepper Mike Evans or do what they can to get Evans there. Big game from Gronk, even Braid as well, especially in the red zone. Look, the running game is getting a little healthier. You can somewhat rely on that. Even if the Rams choose to run and try and keep Brady off the field, it doesn't work. That offense can get down the field. And look, I know it's just the Eagles, the lowly Philadelphia Jalen Hurts-led middle-of-the-road passing offense, but that Bucs pass defense looked pretty good last week, and that's all you need is a stop or two to just widen the gap. I love the Bucs in this game, but I can just feel something weird about that 3.5 to 2.5 point range. So I laid a little extra at -130, Ben, just to cover my ass on this one.
I mean, I think that's a good point that you bring up in the sense that both of these teams, they played opponents that I think kind of lost control in the game. The Eagles, They abandoned the run. They started playing in a situation that I think we all knew that wasn't going to work pretty quickly. Obviously, Kyler Murray and Arizona, they got punched in the mouth. They never responded. They were, after he threw the underhanded pick six, it was just not competitive. So I want to see what happens to both of these secondaries when they are tested by a quarterback that has the means to really move the ball. And certainly to me, Stafford and Brady have that. To me, I just trust a little more of the weapons. Kupp was quiet, but I expect a big game from him. You've got Akers, you've got Higbee, you've got Odell. Tampa, if these guys on the line are banged up now, in addition, how much can they afford to lose at this point? The Rams are a good team. Obviously, Donald and Ramsey will do the heavy lifting. Close game, competitive game, give me the points.
All right, we'll lock up before we get out of here. We have a player prop here to get to our final game from both the side total and or player prop that we can sneak in. Dan, see that parlay there, that teaser technically. I want to get to that because that involves going up on dogs, and we'll get Ben's thoughts on the strategy behind that. Shelton with me. Can't see Stafford and McVay going to Tampa beating Brady. Rasa sees it the other way. Now, he's a smart individual, so we'll have to see how this thing plays out. All right, player prop here. I'll go first, and this is easy. It correlates to exactly what we're talking about. Anything, honestly, anything under 296.5, I feel is smashable for Brady. I got him at 286.5. I'm over that.
Player props to me are the best in this game of any game. I really like the spot for Brady over, even though I like the Rams in the game. I really like the spot for Stafford over 279.5. He had 202 yards passing against Arizona, and he threw the ball 17 times. That is a ridiculous outlier in terms of the volume that he normally sees. Even though I like the Rams, I don't see any way that Stafford is gearing down because they've got the game fully in hand. That would be a true shocker. Before that, on the year, his lowest attempts in any game was week 1, 26. So he threw the ball 9 less times than any game during the regular season. That is a clear throwaway game. I like both of these quarterbacks. I don't even think this is a hot take. Both quarterbacks throw for 300 yards in this game.
Yeah. If there's any type of player performance, any type of bet boost, anything out there, that's something to shop. Because I bet you would get some favorable odds. Look, you can just same game parlay it and see how that works as well. But I'm with you, man. I think you definitely have something there to where both quarterbacks, no matter, I should say no matter entirely because you never know, shit happens, but the game script would definitely stand for both of these guys going heavy. All right, we've our last game in full agreement. See, I told you, full agreement with the end result, or pardon me, the means, which is both quarterbacks throwing, points in the board there, getting above player props from passing yard standpoint. We're just on the opposite side of it. Now the Chiefs, 1.5 to 2, depending on where we're looking, right? I mean, why don't you begin here? Mine are short and sweet, both of mine. Why don't you begin here?
This is the best game of the weekend. 54.5 point total for my DFS fans.
Come on.
You're going to be stacking this one up a lot. Before I get to my picks, I do want to say it's been very cool. We just crossed 2,800 subs on this channel. We're marching towards 3K. If you're new, hopping in for the first time, you're enjoying what you're seeing, you like the tools, or you just want to be part of the community, if you could hit that like button, but more importantly, subscribe to the channel. Join us. We've got a ton of content, VODs, live betting shows, tutorials, same game parlay tutorial that Eitan made is on this channel. Things you need to know if you are betting to save some money and make some money. But this is a tough game. I'm a Bills guy. I love the Bills. I just think that the pendulum has swung a little too much off the dismantling of the Patriots. And I really like the Bills in that Patriots game. But if you're going to tell me this is a virtual pick'em in Arrowhead, I'm going to take the Chiefs. I just think they're too good right now. They're rolling. I hope I'm wrong. I would love to see the Bills win the game. But I just think the honest best play here is to lay the 1.5. If the Bills just won a pedestrian game or a normal game, I think this would be teetering around 3. And to me, it's not that big of an indication. They're going into hostile territory, and the Chiefs are firing on all cylinders right now.
KC's been victim a lot, and even at the start of this year, coming into this year, of the Gonzaga syndrome, right? Which is you're taking on teams that you're expected to beat up. The spreads are a little bit higher. You're not covering those spreads, and all of a sudden your ATS record looks like shit, even though straight up you're dominating teams at -7.5 or above. There's a key stat that I love in this game, because let me ask you this real quick. How much shot do you give Buffalo hanging in a game if they're down, especially down early? Because for me, that's the death knell right there, where it's the beginning of the end for the Bills if they're down early in the first quarter.
Yeah, I mean, obviously, it's not a personnel issue. They've got absolutely lethal weapons. I do think, though, the unsung guy in this game, and he's been getting a lot of work, is Singletary. The Bills are at their height of the powers when they're running the ball with him. Josh Allen obviously running it. If it becomes dropping back, throwing bombs to Diggs, and then you on the other side, it's bombs to Tyreek Hill, I will take the Chiefs in that kind of game more often than not. I think the Bills need a balanced attack. They need one where Singletary is a factor and Josh Allen is making sporadic big plays, not trying to win the game by himself.
Chiefs have been the first to 10 in each of their last 8 home games, which is a bettable stat, but at the same time, like, it's interesting, right? Because in this specific game, we're talking about neutralizing the one thing that could damage the Chiefs defense, and that's just pounding away with it with Allen and Singletary. You add Moss to the equation, but really what Singletary's been doing. So think about this. Chiefs get up, Bills stick to their game plan. They hold on to the football, and that's extreme, but, a 6-minute drive that yields a field goal. Now, all of a sudden, it's 10-3. And then all of a sudden it's 13-3, or it's 20-10. It's 20-7. And the gap keeps widening. It's so difficult to come back against this Chiefs team. That's where I really think Kansas City has the advantage. So that's why I took the Chiefs in this thing. And it goes back to what you said, which is, look, you're essentially getting the Chiefs as a pick 'em. Yeah. If you're laying the 1.5, or if you're just paying a little extra juice on the money line, this is insane that this line is so short.
Listen, it's all about value. Like, at the right number, I'd be back in the Bills. It's just, if you're going to tell me that the Chiefs at home in this game, I don't know, they have found their defense late in the year. They look fantastic offensively. Buffalo, you know what? To be the man, you got to beat the man. All the cliches. They're going to get their chance in Arrowhead, and they've had this chance. Josh Allen obviously is fantastic. They've got the weapons to do it. I just think it's not about can they do it. It's about, you're laying 1.5 points. So it's a pseudo pick 'em. Who is more likely to win this game? To me, the answer to that is still the Chiefs.
Absolutely.
Simple as that.
Look, Odd Shopper has 79, just over 79. I think it's 79.5 for Tyreek Hill as far as projection is concerned. So my player prop is solely based on what we just talked about, with the combination, of course, of getting a nice, healthy, free, mind you, projection from Alex Baker on this. But Tyreek Hill alt receiving yards at 80 plus gets me plus 128. He's hovering. I like I like Kansas City. I like them moving the ball. I like them getting up. We talked about the possibility, at least potential, of a shootout here. Diggs versus Hill. Anything that favors a shootout, throwing the football, anything that favors Kansas City getting up early in the air favors Tyreek Hill. So I'll push it to 80 plus at plus 128. That's my last one on the board here.
Yeah, no problem with that. Tyreek, he had 5 catches in the game, and they didn't need him really against Pittsburgh there. Could have went for more. I'm going to do something that I should have done last week. I was kicking myself for this, but I'm not going to let it slip through this week. I like the rushing over for both quarterbacks. In these type of games, you see them say, you know what, it's time to go. Josh Allen, he had 6 carries for 66 yards against New England. He would have been over 100 if the game wasn't absolutely out of hand immediately. He says in these games, it's time to take it and run. Mahomes, he doesn't run a lot, but in these games, Week 18, he had a 25-yard scramble. He had 55 yards rushing. Even against Pittsburgh, he had a 23-yard scramble, 29 yards rushing. In a competitive game like this, both of the quarterbacks will pull it and run enough. You've got over 22.5 for Mahomes. I think that is a silly number. And then for Josh Allen, you have over 49.5. I think both these guys clear those numbers in a game like this, where it's all hands on deck. A lot of rushing attempts from the quarterbacks.
It's going to be a little heavy here. And again, it may be the difference of 15, 16 points, which is a lot over time, and maybe the difference of 20 points here as far as what your 20 cents, pardon me, of juice, what you're laying here. But look, one prop that I really like, and it's funny you bring this up here, it's kind of a tag along, and it's something that we've talked about with receiving versus longest, but longest rush for Mahomes is only 13.5. We see that. Like, these are 15, 16-yard scampers that he has in him when he's moving, because you're right, people don't really expect him to move. Both in Hill and Kelsey are down the field. You can get Hardman, Pringle as well. You can get guys down the field and get some open area there. 13.5 is a number. It's not one that I would smash right away, but it's something I at least wanted to bring up with you, because I think that those two can definitely correlate.
Yeah, I have no problem with it. Again, I think that the key for me, what I'm going with, is these quarterbacks, both of them, they know their value. They know how smart and necessary it is for them to stay on the field. They don't run in games where they don't need to run unless they have to. But in playoff games, they have a more of a run first mentality when it's there. And I think there are plays that Mahomes and Josh Allen would throw the ball away or throw it in a regular season game that they now run it. I saw that against New England, and I saw it against Pittsburgh. I think we see it on Sunday.
All right, my friend. We'll get out of here. A long shot this time. Lock it up. Something that you've got a gut feel could hit. It's worth maybe a half unit or so. I do want to get to Dan's comment, though. Thoughts on Cincinnati, San Fran, the Rams. We're essentially teasing up 3 dogs here. And while you're getting great value at 4.5 as far as going through key numbers, I know you have specific thoughts and strategy on when, if ever, to tease up dogs.
Yeah, so I'm okay with that right there. You're doing it properly. You're crossing the numbers. You're not obviously crossing 0 because they're underdogs. All of that is good. I don't like Cincinnati in the game, so obviously I'm not going to play that, but that's a separate thing. You can have a bet that is negative EV regardless of who you're betting, and that's what you're not doing here. This is a very sound strategy. Now, if the teams don't get there, the teams don't get there, but the concept behind it, I have no problem with that. So if you have a lean that these dogs hang in and you want to move it through numbers like 3 and 4 and 5, which is becoming, it's not a key number, but games land on 5 a lot more than you would think because of the longer extra points. That's a different show for a different time. I'm on board with that. I just think Cincinnati could be in trouble.
Now all we need from Dan is a first quarter NBA play for only 3 games. So, yeah, you don't have a ton right there. All right. Anything you have on the chat, hit us up, lock it up. We'll try and bounce that real quick before we get out of here. Let me start, and Ben can bring us back to reality with his long shot. Lock it up. Joe Burrow hasn't thrown a pick in forever. He also hasn't been on the road, as you mentioned. It just feels like if we have the Titans winning this game, we have the under in this game, it just feels like Joe Burrow is prone to make a mistake. It's also the playoffs, man. Weird bounces, weird things happen. A lineman picks the ball off and runs in 6 yards. Tennessee, anytime D or ST score at plus 440, full unit there. Look, I'll put a quarter unit on 2 plus touchdowns for the Tennessee. Well, look, a quarter unit at plus 7,000 here. All you need is a punt return or a kick return at that point if you get the pick 6. Or if you get the return, now all you need is Joe Burrow to make that mistake. It's a long shot for a reason, Ben. Did you want me to come in here with a plus 200 play?
If that hits, I'm going to be visiting you on your new yacht.
Yes, sir.
Plus 7,000. Joe Burrow could be in trouble. Listen, that's what it's called.
Big
it's
play
called
plus 440. Right.
The long shot, lock it up is the long shot, lock it up for a reason. You got to go for it. And I'm going to take a risk as well. I'm going to back that San Francisco changes up what they're doing. They played the Rams in week 18, elite pass rush. They played the Cowboys in the wild card, elite pass rush. They had George Kittle blocking because he's just a phenomenal blocker. I don't think we're going to see that as much here. Maybe I'm wrong. If we don't, George Kittle to score the first touchdown in that game is 11-1. To me, that is just too big for a guy this good. If he doesn't get the opportunities, well, we're going to have problems. But if he does, George Kittle would not be north of 10-1 if we hadn't seen the 2 quiet games in recent weeks. I think it's a personnel issue. I think that changes against Green Bay. I think George Kittle is going to be a heavy red zone target here. And if you're going to give me 11-1, that will be on the card.
Same game parlay. George Kittle, first touchdown, George Kittle 2+ touchdown, plus 52.76.
So
let's go.
You know what I don't get though, and maybe I'm off base here. George Kittle to score twice in this game is 8-1, but to score the first touchdown is 11-1. To me,
I have him. Wait a second. Depending on where you're looking, I have him plus 1,300. George Kittle on one book, 2+ touchdowns.
See, that's a little better. I don't like that line at all at 8-1.
No. At plus 1,300, you're getting 200 points more than the first touchdown.
That's a little more reasonable, but because to me, he's more likely to score first than score twice.
But if he scores first, you have a long chances are that he's already being right. But it's not going to score first out of luck or chance, I guess was my point.
No, it's probably because of the game plan at that point. Like George Kittle is a very boom bust option right now, because if he's not part of the passing attack, he's only going to have a couple of targets. If he is, though, it's George Kittle. This is one of the preeminent tight ends in the entire league. I just don't know what we get. And I think that's a worthwhile spot to take a risk.
Hit that thumbs up button. Make sure you're subscribed here. We appreciate you all hanging with us on the chat. Thanks to Mike Awesemo for producing. We'll be back on Monday, and we'll have a full comprehensive look Monday into the night on the NBA slate.
Yes,
so make sure you're here for that. Ben, On our way out, as you always do, remind everybody about all the beautiful things happening on this channel.
Yeah, absolutely. Once again, if you've got questions at Shander Show, at JazzRezDFS, but what you really want to do is subscribe. We've got tutorials with Odd Shopper. We're obviously revving up the betting content here, and it's just a really good time to get in. So for all the VODs, for all the live streams, and for all the tutorials, this is the place to be. Good luck. Enjoy these games. Cannot wait to see them. Best football week of the year. Chat said it, and I agree. And we'll be back next week talking hoops, and then obviously breaking down the conference championships.
Go Bucks.
No.
Actually, go Packers.
Go Packers, even though